Greetings, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Let's Talk Family, a show dedicated to strengthening the bond in the family, provide information for the family so that we can have stronger families. You have stronger families, you have stronger communities. So, this is the Mother's Day edition. So, before I forget, first, allow me to say to all the mothers, Happy Mother's Day. Let me say that again. Happy Mother's Day. Let me give a special shout out to my queen, my bride, my rib, my wife, Marie, the mother of our two children. So happy Mother's Day to you and to my mother, Lavon, who is a fabulous mother who I thank God I still have today, along with her mother, my grandmother, all are still here. So happy Mother's Day to all the mothers in the viewing audience. Today's show is dedicated to you, the mothers. This is the Mother's Day edition. And I will tell you, I have a lady that is going to come on and she is going to be a powerhouse and give us some information that is going to be great. It's going to be wonderful and it's going to be awesome. So I'm going to be honest, I've been waiting on this show. So I hope you're prepared. So without further ado, allow me to bring to the stage Michelle. Hello, Michelle. How are you today?
Hello, Mr. Bowtie Feaster. I am doing absolutely phenomenal.
That is great. It is so glad to have you. I am looking forward to this conversation. Your story is awesome and your ministry is even more awesome. So let's start off by you telling us who you are.
Well, first of all, let me say thank you so much for allowing me the grace and the honor and the privilege to share this platform with you. So thank you so much. I'm very appreciative and I hope to, leave all those tuning and listening in with some valuable nuggets of wisdom and things that they can put in their toolkit. So in a nutshell, who I am. First and foremost, I'm a woman of faith. I have a personal life mission statement, a vision statement that I believe everybody should have to guide them through life. And so mine is I'm a woman of faith, living life audaciously in spite of, seeing the invisible, doing the impossible, and inspiring others to do the same. So that in a nutshell is who I am now. I am a mother, I am a grandmother, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm an author, and more importantly, I'm an advocate. I advocate for things that are very near and dear to my heart. I advocate for domestic violence survivors. I advocate for sexual assault survivors. I advocate for those that have encountered military sexual trauma and have mental health challenges secondary to trauma. So that is, who I am and what I do. I just love empowering people. So who I am is a servant. I'm a servant at heart. I'm at my best when I'm serving others. I'm at my worst when I'm serving myself. And so that is, in essence, who I am.
Woo, as you can see, just with the intro, you can see that I have somebody here that's really going to give us some good information. When we was having our before the show, behind the scenes, however you want to call it, just talking to you both times has been great. I wanted you personally to be on the Mother's Day edition so that you can talk to mothers. Your story of being a wife, being a mother is phenomenal. So let's start off by you telling us a little bit about your marriage.
Ooh, that was a loaded, not even a question, but that's very loaded. And so let me just preface that to say that I'm not married now. I was married for 20 years. So I have a lot of experience with being married as well as being a mother. But I want to say this to the women that are listening in and tuning in. You know, women, we wear a lot of hats. You know, we're mothers, we're leaders, we're lovers, we're friends. You know, we're whoever we need to be or whoever we need to be them for. And though when we get married, though our husbands are the head, we are the neck by which the head swivels. And
Yeah.
men will listen to the women in their lives that they love and care about. And so, as women in all the hats that we wear, we've all experienced things in life. You know, there's things that we have challenges with and struggles with, and we show up in life or don't show up based on the experiences that we've had. And as women, we bring that into the marriage. And, you know, we instill in our children their morals and their values and their character. And if we are instilling in them dysfunction that we may or may not be aware of, then we're pouring that dysfunction into them. And so we are turning out dysfunctional children and who become dysfunctional teenagers, who become dysfunctional adults, and we turn them out to the community. And it becomes a vicious cycle. So, women, we have a very hefty responsibility as not only mothers, but as wives and as women in general for those in our lives that we influence. And so, you know, my nonprofit, Healing Women, Healing Nations, the foundation of that and the principle is that by healing a woman, we heal a nation one woman at a time. And so, you know, I got married at a very young age. I was in the military. I
Hold on
was
before you go there. Like that mouthful you just said was awesome. Like you said, the woman, the man is the head, but the woman is the neck. And I like that analogy that you gave because to me it tells me as the father, tells me as a husband, tells me as the man, I can't do anything without my neck. You see what I'm saying? Like it gives me all the mobility that I need. So if when the two works together, I mean the Bible tells the two shall become one. So when the neck and the head works together, this head is able to do some awesome things. That was good. I'm sorry. I just had to expound on that. That was good.
That's okay. That's see, and that's why, you know, for that's why men and women need one another. And I think that has gotten
Yeah.
lost in today's society. The breakdown of the family unit didn't happen
Yeah.
overnight, so the restoration of the family unit is not going to happen overnight. But each one
We're doing
has to be accountable. Yeah,
we're
each
doing a
one
good
has to
job
be.
of trying to fix it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
each
And that's where it
each part
starts.
has to be responsible.
Yes. 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 So okay,
So
go ahead.
you know.
Go ahead and tell me about your marriage. Or go ahead. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
So no, no, that's fine. This is, you know, it's conversational flow. So my marriage, I entered into my marriage looking for protection, looking for a knight in shining armor, looking for what I didn't have growing up because I didn't have a sense of safety and security because of some things that I endured during my childhood. And I'm not going to go into that. That's a whole nother story. But I went into the marriage looking for safety and security and a protector and a provider, everything that the man is supposed to be. Um, and I looked for that in another fellow service member. I was in the military. And I looked to him because he was formidable in stature, 6'4", 330 pounds, built like a brick house, you know, and in my mind, nobody was going to bother me because they had to get through him to get to me.
Right.
And so, you know, and I did, you know, my definition of what love was then, you know, at that young age. I thought I was in love. And, you know, I'm not going to say I was in love. It was just dysfunctional. Um, and so, you know, we got married young, and our relationship was very volatile. It was combusted because I was a hothead and he was an even hotter head. And so early in the marriage, there were challenges, but I was determined, you know, that no matter what, I was going to make this work because this was everything that I wanted and needed and desired. And then we both came to the marriage with our own issues. And when you have unaddressed things, you can only suppress it for so long before it begins to manifest or show up in some way, shape, form, or another. And that showed up early in our marriage. For him, it was through the it showed up as infidelity. And for me, because of my previous experience growing up and being, violated sexually and abused and in that manner, that was devastating to me. But I was determined that I was going to make my marriage work. And so, early on, the marriage had issues, but I was in it no matter what because I believed in the covenant of marriage. And I just felt that this was, you have your this was the worst part of the better of the or the worst. And
So
so I came into
when you when you picked your
go ahead.
husband, you said he was a big guy. When you thought
Yes.
about protection, you was looking more of the physical aspects of protection.
Not just the physical, but he provided a sense of safety and security that I had never experienced. He was very
Mm,
protective and very attentive, initially in the beginning, the early years. And so that drew me to him. And he was very charismatic, and he wasn't bad to look at. So, that was a plus. And so
right.
that's what drew me, because I hadn't experienced that. And so, early on, we were young. I don't think either of us was ready for marriage, but let alone ready for a child, which we had very early, my daughter. And so there was some things that transpired in the marriage. Like I said, there was infidelity. There was physical, abuse. There was mental, emotional abuse. And so after a while, I went into the marriage not knowing who I was as a woman before the marriage, not knowing, who I was created to be, what I was here for. I didn't know what my purpose
Yes.
was. I just knew that I was raised to be a strong, independent woman, and that's what I was doing. And a woman holds her family together no matter what, and that's what my mindset was. And so, but I wasn't whole. I wasn't the things that were beginning to come up from my past and my experiences growing up were
Yes.
starting to come to the forefront, but I wasn't prepared for the things that were coming up. And so I ignored them, and I ignored them through achievements, through success in my military career, through creating the picture perfect family on the outside, on the outside looking in. I kept
Right.
my house immaculate. I took care of myself physically. I went to school to, further my education and, I whatever he wanted. He had need of nothing. He got up in the morning to go to work, at 4, and I was up making breakfast. I was up, preparing his lunch. I was up making sure his
Mm,
clothes were ironed and pressed, and I was doing
that's
all
what
of
I'm talking about.
that.
Yeah.
And so, I was being the proverbial what I thought the Proverbs 31 woman was. I was getting up
Right.
before dawn, preparing for my home, caring for my family, preparing them for the day, and looking for ways, for us to grow in every aspect of the word, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, financially. I was doing all of those things. But
Right.
the balancing act, when the scales tipped was when the infidelity started becoming apparent. And I was a hothead then, and, I was very much a hothead. And it just became combusted, And to give you an example, it came to light that he was seeing someone that I knew, and I confronted him, and an altercation ensued, and
Mm,
it was just not pleasant, and it was not pretty. You
right.
know, um, I wouldn't wish that on anyone, but I was determined. I was like, I know who I am as a wife. I know who I am as a mother. I know who I am as a leader,
Right.
in the military, but I didn't know who I was as Michelle. I didn't
Right.
know what I liked because my likes were his likes. I didn't know.
Right.
No, it wasn't like that. No, I did have a I'm just saying,
Yeah.
you know, I was serving my husband.
Right.
I was doing what I thought I was supposed to do, but I was losing myself in the process. As I was coming into learning who I was apart from him, I was losing myself in the process. I
That's
didn't know
one
where.
of That's one of the things that when I talk to couples, I draw that in. Don't lose
Mhm.
yourself in the process, because
Mhm.
I didn't marry myself. I married my
Mhm.
wife, and the
Right.
fact that I married my wife were some qualities that drew me to my wife, and those are the things that I'm going to continue to look for. And if
Mhm.
you lose that in the marriage, then the marriage starts to make changes.
Crumble.
I'll say that. Well,
Mhm.
not necessarily crumble. Eh, Maybe, well, eventually, yes, crumble, but changes start before the crumbling.
Mhm.
There's the repair process first. People
Mhm.
try to repair, either one or both of the spouses would try to do some type of repair. And if those repairs are not met, or if those repairs are not effective, then the crumbling starts. So
Mhm.
you got to keep
Well,
that identity. Yes.
if you have a faulty foundation, then eventually it is going to fall apart. You
Right.
can try to repair it. If the foundation is not sure and set,
Right.
then no matter how you repair it, eventually it's going to tumble. And and we have to go back to what was the original intention of marriage. If you're marrying out of love, that's good,
Right.
but the intention of marriage, it has to be greater than yourself.
Right.
God created a helpmeet, for Adam. And that's what Eve was, a helpmeet. And so if you're coming together and it's all about love and how we can do this and how we look, and it's not about a greater purpose, then the foundation is faulty from the beginning.
I'm sorry. My dog is wanting some attention. I'm trying to tell him, but I guess he wants to get on camera. I'm trying to tell him to lay down so I can have a conversation, but he wants to
Right,
get in the conversation.
right.
Sorry.
No, no worries. And
When we look at the two people coming together, being married and broken, that's another thing I talk about in when you talk to couples. That's not the problem that you come together broken. The problem is if you don't help each other repair.
mhm,
Yeah,
mhm.
and a lot of people don't know that. A lot of people we're just starting to understand and learn, the role, the function, the responsibility of marriage, and how it
Mhm.
works in a dual relationship, what it means the two shall become one. I mean, we're all broken individuals that come
And
together.
that's a process. That's a process. The two becoming one is not instantaneous. It's a
Yes,
process because you're together and you're supposed to grow and evolve. And if one is growing and the other is not, then the other, okay, well, what do I need to go do to help you to grow? You
right,
mirror each other. We
right.
all have blind spots, and the word says iron sharpen iron. You're there to sharpen him. He's there to sharpen you. Now, are you willing to submit to that? And don't take that word submit out of context. I don't mean submit to anything, but are you submit to allowing someone to help you to grow
That word
as a
submit
as
has been coming up in a lot of conversations lately. A lot of
yes.
conversations lately because we're having such a major issue with that. I'm gonna say this, and maybe I'll do a show on it, but we have a big time issue with the word submit when it comes to the wife submitting to the husband.
Mhm.
But we don't have that same problem when we go to work and we submit to our boss. So it's not the issue of submission, it's the position of the submission. But that's
Exactly.
another whole story for
It
another
is. And
whole
a lot
time.
that word submission is taken out of context a lot of times.
Yes,
I like what, Miss Patrice Sterling said. She said, always go back to the why. You have to
yes,
go back to the why of why are you together?
yes, yes,
You know,
yes.
so um and I learned so much from my husband at the time and during our marriage. I learned more about who I am as a woman, who I'm called to be, as a woman and a woman of God. I learned how to interact and live with someone, and compromise even in the midst of I learned to love him beyond the superficial. Like, I learned to love him God loves us and as Christ sees us. I during a very volatile time, I said, Lord, help me
Yes.
to love this man. Help me to love him as Christ loved us. Help me to see him as a soul that was bound like I was once bound, so that
Yes.
I can pray for him, so that I'm not fighting against him. And once I shifted, because you can't pray for someone that you're angry with or upset with or you hate. You can't do
You,
the two.
you
So
saying a
which one
whole lot. Yes.
are you going to choose? Are you going to pray? Or are you going to hate? Are you going to
Yes.
pray? Are you going to speak life? Or are you going to speak death? You know, because we wrestle not against flesh and blood, and that's what I had to remember. But I had to
Yes.
remember who I was in Christ first to be able to
Yes.
do that.
Yeah.
And so, that helped me to shift things, that transpired during the marriage. And
Yes.
so, even though we're no longer together, and even though some things were done on both parts, we have a bond of daughter together. We had a life together, and it wasn't all bad. I took ownership of my part, the role that I played. I don't take ownership of the physical abuse, but I take ownership of the part that I played in the role that I
Right.
played.
Right. Right.
And so, I would encourage mothers that are struggling, women that are struggling in their marriages, and they're struggling with their, with the children. It ends and begins with you. Everything it ends and begins within. It's not about what's going on. It's about what is within. You have to go back to the root of the thing that has caused you to show up or not show up in the situations that you're in within your marriage.
Right.
And how you are showing up or not showing up as a mother. Because we raise our children, we instill in them. And if our morals and our values and our characteristics are altered, then theirs are going to be altered.
Yes. So how does that role of mother, like you're very passionate about that role. So how do you feel about that role as mother?
I am honored
Mm,
that God saw fit to get to have me to be a steward over one of his children.
yes.
I was when I first held my daughter in my arms in the delivery room, and I felt the weight of her. It was like a weight of responsibility was placed upon me, and I looked at her and I said, "I'm responsible for this life. I'm
Mm,
responsible for nurturing her. I'm responsible for pouring into her. I'm responsible for a life." And it
yes.
was it was sobering. It was a beautiful moment, but it was sobering because I didn't want to fail her. And I did, but we have such an open relationship. We can communicate about anything because I was so transparent about the
Right.
challenges that I had, not only as a mother, but as a woman and as a wife, because I wanted to prepare her. And so I just, being a mother, that is the most rewarding
Yes.
um, thing that you can do in this life. You're helping to mold and shape a life. And
Well,
if
I
you
ain't gonna
do
make.
it,
I'm not
if
gonna
you do it,
make this about fathers, but that's how I feel about being a father. So I understand your passion and you understand the responsibility and the burden of it. Like that's beautiful. That's beautiful.
and
Beautiful.
so, but this is the thing also, we as women have to stop going into the marriage with the wrong expectations. We have to stop seeking relationships with the wrong expectations.
Yes.
If we went into it as the word, you know, indicates, the men are the protectors, the providers, the priests, and the providers of the home. They're to provide safety and security and
Yes.
provision and all of that. But the women make the houses homes. We as women, um, we are the glue that holds the family together.
Right.
We manage the home, but if we're mismanaging the home because of wrong, upbringing or environments or however, then it's going to fall apart. And I know that sounds like it places a lot of responsibility on the woman, but we each have our own responsibilities and our own roles to play.
Well, the only reason why it sounds like you're placing a lot of responsibility on a woman is because today is Mother's Day. Because if this was Father's Day, I would be saying the same thing that you're saying. It's
Right.
and not to demean mothers at all, or make this about fathers, because this is the Mother's Day edition, but it's just understanding the severity of the role of a father, the role of a mother, the role of a wife, the role of a husband. It's not just like in my book, I titled the chapter, love, not leverage. Your child
Mhm.
is not there for leverage at all. Your child is
Yeah.
not there to bridge the gap between you and the baby daddy for money, security, or safety. The child is there for love. The child is a byproduct of, in most cases, a beautiful situation, a beautiful
Exactly.
time, you know, and that's the
Exactly.
byproduct. And you should love the byproduct. The child had nothing to do with it. The child is a byproduct. And even if it wasn't a beautiful situation, you still have a child that is here and had nothing to do with it. Again, it's a byproduct.
You know, the breakdown in relationships today, whether you're married or relationships period, or we're talking about, the family, is patterns, perceptions, and performance. Those are the three breakdowns, the three areas where there's a breakdown.
Mhm.
The patterns is you've been with your spouse long enough to know their patterns. And if those patterns start to shift, then we as women we start looking kind of crazy, like, well, why is it shifting? This pattern, this behavior is shifting. The perceptions, what we perceive to be, isn't what it always is. And the perform women, when women are hurt, when women have been experienced a lot of broken relationships, and it's not necessarily intimate, um, then we react accordingly and we respond accordingly. And children are often used as pawns in that because the women are so hurt and may even become bitter that they use the children as a way to get back at the spouse that has hurt them. But that damages not just the children, it damages it further damages the woman, because now you're in a position where you don't trust. Now you're in a position where your mindset is like this, there are no more good men out there. Now you're in a position,
Right.
and if your husband was a man of God or a man of the word or a man of the cloth, now you perceive all men of the cloth as not being, but they were men first before they were men of the cloth, and so it just becomes this domino effect. But
Yes.
you have to deal with bitterness. We have to heal, and you can't heal what you won't address. And we have to stop keeping secrets within the family unit, because silence breeds sickness, and secrets breed generation after generation of dysfunction. So instead of having generations of blessings, we have generations of dysfunction, because it's an open secrets that we're carrying within our families. And the time is out for that. We have to be honest. We have to be willing to look at our blind spots. We have to be willing to not just talk about it, but we have to be willing to go through the process of healing, which means addressing the things that hurt us the most. Society, the way that society is set up, we seek pleasure and we avoid pain, but pain is a part of the process of life, period. So you have to embrace the pain and address the pain and go through the process of healing from the pain so that you can get to the pleasure, so that you
Right.
can get to the union that God has called us to.
So let's
So,
talk about this, because I put it up there because it's a pivotal point. And this is something that we talked about before the show. This is a pivotal point in healing. This is a pivotal point in relationships. This is a pivotal point in mothers, since we're talking about mothers on Mother's Day. You cannot heal what you do not address. So let's start by the beginning of that. We're talking about healing.
mhm.
And you said something earlier, before the show, we were talking about, for a woman, do you want to be made whole? So it's the
Right.
healing, right? It's the healing. Like, first of all, do you want to be made whole? And I'll let you go ahead and start with that.
So will you be made whole? For women that have encountered, being in a household that where they didn't have a father growing up, so their mindset is, that's not going to happen to my child. That's not going to happen to my household. But if you have not resolved that in your heart, the feeling of being abandoned by because you grew up in a one parent household, then you're going to take that into your marriage, your family. And so, and then there are households where the father was there, he provided, but he was not present, or maybe he was more present with the sons and not the girls. And so girls, their fathers are the first male role model that they have. And if you don't have that, then you're going to go into relationships and marriage, based on what you think it is, or based on what your mom or your parent has shown you. And depending on what her situation was like growing up, you're gonna mimic what you see.
Right.
And so you have to be made whole and know that in and of yourself you are whole and complete before you ever get into the relationship, or before you ever come into the marriage. And if you're not whole, then it's gonna manifest, it's gonna show up. And so will you be made whole? Who are you aside from that relationship? Who are you aside from that man? Who are you aside from being a mother to the child that you had out, before you
Yes.
got me? Who were you before that? You
Yes.
know, you have to know who you are and come to that whole. Two halves do not make a whole. Two wholes make a whole. And so, and I know that we all have areas where we're broken, okay, but that doesn't mean that we're not whole.
Right.
Healing is a process. Being made whole is an entirely different thing.
Right.
And so, what I mean by will you be made whole? Are you willing to face the hurts and the bitterness and the anger that you have felt? Um, and it all goes back to, you have to trace it back to that one emotion or that one experience that you had that causes you to show up how you do in your
Right.
relationships. And for myself, I'll use myself as an example. I didn't grow up with my father. I don't know my real father. He left when I was 6 months old. So I never knew
Mm.
him. And my grandmother, my mother taught me to be very strong, to be very independent, to be able to take care of myself. But I didn't have that male role model to teach me how to cohabitate with a man, to teach me how to, you know, um, not take any foolishness or see through the games that some men play. And so I had to learn that the hard way. And so, it ends and begins with you. You have to know who you are. And until you know who you are, and if you're a woman who has encountered, a broken relationship or a broken marriage, don't entertain another relationship for seeking the purpose of marriage until you've worked on and done the healing within yourself. The scripture that I stood on after my marriage, because it was a failure for me, it was a death because I failed. Isaiah
Mm.
54:5 is, for the Lord your maker is your husband. The Lord of hosts is his name. And that scripture carried me until I came to a place of healing. Because even
Yeah.
though I desired to be in a relationship, I was with my husband 20 years. That's a long time.
Yes.
But I had to allow myself to go through the process of healing before I could even entertain the thought of bringing somebody else into my life and sharing a life with somebody else, because trust was broken. There's an acronym that I use: time, respect, understanding, sacrifice, and tenacity.
Mm.
All of that, you know, makes up trust. And trust is easily broken, but it's
Yes.
hard to come by. And so
Yes.
I had to allow myself to not only trust a man again, but to trust myself, and to allow God to do the healing that He needed to do within. And that
Right.
came from spending time with Him. That came from spending time in His Word. That came from facing my own, you know, dysfunctions that as they were being revealed. There was a history of women in our family that had encountered trauma, and they were damaging themselves, physically, mentally, emotionally, because of the effects of the trauma that they encountered. And I determined that it stops here.
Mm.
I
I
want
like
to
that.
turn,
I
I
like
want to
that.
leave a legacy no longer of pain, but I want to turn that pain into power for the women coming behind me, first in my family, then for women in general.
Yes.
because
Yes.
men and women, we need one another. You know, we were created, to commune together. We were created to grow together. We were created to rule and have dominion over together. But
Yes.
in order to do that, we have to be able to trust one another, but more importantly, trust the one who created us.
Right.
That if things were allowed to happen, they were allowed to happen for a reason, and not to get stuck and stagnant in hurt and pain and bitterness and lash out at those that didn't cause it. So you
Right.
cannot heal what you won't address. I had to address my pain from, my being abandoned, I felt, by my father that I never knew. I had to address the feeling of being rejected when I sought after relationships because I didn't feel worthy of better quality relationships, what I accepted and what I allowed. So I had to be healed from the rejection. I had to be healed from the abandonment. I had to be healed from people pleasing. I had
Right.
to be healed from diminishing who I am as a woman, to elevate, the men in my life. And so, I could go on and on and on, but
Well, as you're going on, you've taken all of that. Like the one thing I really love about you and what you've been saying is you took all of those experiences and you not only looked in the mirror and healed the hurt that you were dealing with, but you've extended a hand to a lot of other mothers, a lot of other women, and you're helping them. So let's talk about your handout, your reach. Like, what is your reach? How are you handing out? How are you reaching back?
so I am reaching back. This is the thing. You can turn your tragedies into triumphs. You can turn your pain into power. You can turn your mess into your message. You can be empowered to thrive. You
Yes.
can learn to heal. You can be healed to love, to of others. So all of that is under the umbrella of an organization, Healing Women, Healing Nations, that was created out of my worst, my darkest pain. I had 5 failed suicide attempts.
Mm.
I had 5 mental health diagnoses. I had mental health traumas because I had not addressed the pain and the things that had happened over the years, and it all came to a head in the military. And
Mm.
so once I got out, I realized that I needed to heal. And so that journey took me. I ended up in the Andes Mountain in Peru at 18,000 feet, hanging off the side of the mountain with 10 other veterans, all male. I was the only female and the only African American. And I was at a point that I said, I don't want to end my life. I just don't want to continue to carry this excruciating pain anymore. And so I had
Right.
to deal with it. And after I, sought counseling, after I really did the deep work of healing, I started this organization to help women to be empowered, to overcome their obstacles, to be educated on what they needed to be able to do to heal, and to educate and encourage the community to rally around these women, because we needed the help. And so what that looks like is, um, under my organization, Michelle Speaks, If You Hide It, You Can't Heal It. It's a mentoring and coaching company. We have 3 programs, the redefining your life path, creating your ideal life after adversity. And so we
Right.
work one-on-one. It's a 6-month intensive where we take you through the process of recreating your life after whatever adversity that you've had. And what that looks like is, there's a model that we use. It's called the ACE method, and it's acceptance, compassion, and education. First and foremost, you have to accept where you are and acknowledge where you are, not bemoaning how you got there, but acknowledging that this is where I
Yes.
am, and accept that there was nothing that you could have done to prevent it, and there was nothing that you did that caused it. And then the next step is the compassion, because we are so quick to be compassionate with others, but we're often the most critical of ourselves.
Yes. Yes.
Be compassionate and be gentle with yourself on this journey, of healing, because healing is a journey. It is not a destination. And then the last component of that is to educate yourself on what you need to do to move forward. There's
Yeah.
various types of therapies. Every therapy doesn't work for everyone. So you need to educate yourself on what you need to do to move forward. And to do that, you have to know who you are, but more importantly, whose you are.
Yeah.
And the word says we are fearfully and wonderfully made. But in practical terms, what does that mean? What was I created for?
Right.
We were created to commune. We were created for community. We were created to, serve. But and what does that look like for you? Like, what is your gift? You have to identify what your gift is. And my gift is healing. If I had to say in one word, the word we talk about God is the great I am.
Yeah.
In 3 words, if I have to say what I am healing.
Nice.
And I own that. But I wasn't able to own that before.
Right. So I'm gonna back you up some, because you went over something, and I kind of want to bring it back up, and maybe, I mean, we don't have to really dialogue it too long, but 5 failed suicide attempts.
Yes.
5. I don't think I know anyone outside of you that have had 5 failed suicide attempts. And to see where you are now after hearing that just shows, like you said, you can rise, you can try. How'd you say you can triumph out of your troubles? What'd you say?
So
How was?
a triumph over tragedy.
There we go. Yes, yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes.
So I used to be ashamed um, of the fact that I attempted suicide 5 times. I used to be ashamed that
Mm,
I was given 5 mental health diagnoses,
mm,
complex post traumatic stress, generalized anxiety, you know, um, panic disorder, agoraphobia. When I was diagnosed with all of that, I felt that I was no longer viable, to my family, to the community as a person. I felt like my life had shattered. I felt like that was it. Do not pass go, do not collect $200, as the Monopoly game goes. But, 5 is also the number of grace. And I don't know why I'm connected with the number 5, but those 5 failed suicide attempts, it was because I felt that I couldn't endure another day of the pain. I felt that I didn't understand why these things happened to me. I felt that I was worthless. And so on the side of that mountain, I realized that I was not alone in that other people had experienced what I experienced, that other people had experienced worse. And so,
right,
because it's still here, then there's a reason that I'm still here. I'm here
right.
to say that, yes, I attempted to end my life 5 times, but I'm still here. And you can be, and you have a purpose too. Yes, I have 5, mental health diagnoses, but I can still live an abundant life in spite of that. Some of the greatest people in entertainment live with mental health, mental illness. This is the month of May, it's Mental Health Awareness Month.
Right.
Some of the people in our greatest, warriors in the Bible encountered challenges with depression. And so it's in the word. So what
Yes.
makes me think I'm not going to, not going to experience some of those things? But how do I get through it? I
Yes.
address it, I face it, because if you hide it, you can't heal it. I'm no longer ashamed because everybody has a proverbial thorn in their side, that God says, my grace is sufficient for. But
Yes.
I had to
Yeah.
find out how to use what that purpose was for that thorn in my side, and how I was going to use that thorn in my side to go back and pull other women out. And so that's
Yeah.
what I do. We do it. You have to unmask the hurt. And there's 3 phases to that. You have to unhide it, you have to harness it, and then you can heal it. So unhide it means you have to remove the mask and face it. Harnessing it means you have to channel it into something positive. Find an area that you want to volunteer. Find something that you're passionate about, that you want to advocate for, or
Right.
become an activist about. Harness that and turn that into something that you can channel into something that's going to positively impact somebody's life.
Right.
And then you can heal from it.
Hmm.
And then not only can you heal, that healing will take you down the path of becoming whole. And
Yes.
then the two will become one.
Well, I don't know if anybody else has been blessed through this episode, but I know I have, just to hear your story and how you have triumphed out of your tragedy, and just use what you've gone through as a platform to reach out and help others. So from me to you, I say thank you for all that you do. So as we get ready to close up, I want you to go ahead and tell everybody how they can be in contact with you.
Well, if you'd like to follow me on all of my social media platforms, my social media handle is Michelle Speaks with a Z, MICHELLESPEAKZ. And so I'm on Twitter, I'm on YouTube, I'm on Instagram. I'm a certified life recovery coach. So if you are ready to begin or continue your journey to redefining your life, then reach out to me, and let's set up a discovery call. And you can begin, your journey today. And so you can find me also at michellespeaks.com. That's my website. Um, and so reach out to me, connect with me, and begin or continue your journey to healing, because healing is a journey. It is not a destination. And I want to speak to that person or that woman or that mother that is out there that is suffering, that is feeling unworthy, that is feeling abandoned, that is feeling all alone, that is not looking forward to Mother's Day because maybe you may be a single parent, or maybe you are in a marriage that you don't want to be in. Know that you are not alone and there's purpose in everything. And if you will take the first step of faith, if you will take the first step to reach out and get the help that you need, if you need to go and seek out counseling, it's not a death sentence. It is okay to love Jesus and still have a therapist, because God created people to address those needs. If you are feeling that you are straddling the fence, wanting to end your life, reach out for help. You are not alone. It is temporary, it will pass. There is help, there is hope. Our motto is to provide help, produce hope, and promote healing. So, there's hope for you, there's help for you, and there's life after adversity for you. So, reach out. And for all the mothers out there, happy Mother's Day. And I embrace you and know that you are cherished, you are celebrated, and you are phenomenal women. You are a beautiful thing that God has made, and continue to um, follow the path that God has you on. And create a faith map by which you live. I live my life. The word says in Habakkuk 2 and 2, write the vision and make it plain. I have a faith map. And so for each area of my life, personal, spiritual, professional, social, physical, and financial, I have an overriding scripture. And then there's 3 points that I have under each of those scriptures that I pray daily for the things that I want to come to pass in my life. And so what do you want your life to be? Romans 4:17 says, speak those things as not as though they were. So if it's not what you want it to be now, speak what you want it to be, and then believe that it's going to happen, because you have to be free in order to be able to walk fully in what God has called you to.
Hold on, you got to do that again because we talked about that and we forgot about you wanted to show those. So go ahead and show them again. Your
So,
script,
and
your sayings behind you.
right, and so in order for you to be able to walk fully in who God has created you to be, you have to be free. And the word says, "Whom the Son set free is free indeed." And to be free, you have to face the truth of the reality of what you're in now. If it's not what you want it to be, then you have to face the truth, because God created us to be a family. And to be a family, our family is just like it's the branches of a tree that we may grow in different directions, yet our roots remain as one. And so if you're not connected to the vine, get reconnected to the vine. And by the vine, you know who I mean. Know who you are in Christ. And so that's all that I have.
This has been a phenomenal show. I truly, truly thank you for your passion. I thank you for accepting the invite to be on here. And I thank you so much for pushing your way through and continue on to help others to reach the excellence that God has called us to be. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And happy Mother's Day. It's been a great pleasure having you on.
Thank you, Mr. Bowtie Feaster. I love that name. Thank you for allowing me the honor of sharing your platform. Thank you for entrusting me and trusting me with your audience. And I pray that you continue to prosper and grow and expand and broaden your boundaries, and that God continues to enlarge your territory. So thank you so much. And I look forward to connecting with those that want to connect.
Yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. So, man, I don't even know how to come back from that. That was, whoo. I told y'all it was going to be good. I told y'all it was going to be good. I told y'all it was going to be good. Well, let me tell you, the next couple of shows, we are still approving the flyers. There's an approval process once we just make the flyers up. So I don't have them, but the next show is going to be. I'm excited about this one because I don't know anything about it. It is entitled "Parents, Children of Incarcerated Parents." So I'm so looking forward to that one because it is not anything that I know anything about. And so I'm expecting the show to be very informative. Uh, Daphne Jack is going to come on and just fill us with information on that subject. And so if you know anybody in that area, please have them come on and be here on May 22nd. And then on June 5th, we're going to have a good friend of mine named Kiti Folks who's going to come and talk about parents with disabled children. Now, I'm going to leave the story that I have about Kiti and his daughter until June 5th when he gets here. But um, he has taught me a lot, and I'll leave it at that. So that's going to be on June 5th. And then June 19th is Father's Day. June 19th is Father's Day. And on Father's Day, the show will be a little different than what we normally have. On June 19th, I have my Father's Day banquet. Whew, father-daughter banquet. And so on June 19th, we're going to have a Father's Day banquet. I am trying to decide not if, but how I would broadcast my show there. I'm probably going to talk to a couple of attendees and bring them on and talk to them because I'm real passionate about, first of all, being a father, and second of all, about this relationship. When you talk about legacy, we talk about building family, you're talking about strengthening the family. You want to build on this unsung relationship. And it's not that the mother son is not, important, but this is one of the relationships that nobody really talks about that I want to take the time out and honor the father and honor the daughter. So on June 19th, here in Crestview, I am having my third annual father-daughter banquet, and I'll be broadcasting Let's Talk Family from there at the same time. Then we talked briefly about it today with Michelle, but I'm doing two shows dedicated to divorce. And just like Michelle said today, divorce comes with some thought process. It comes with some healing. It comes with some things behind that. So I'm actually dedicating two shows to divorce. The approved flyer that I have right now is Tanya Hood, who's going to talk about healing after divorce. Now, she's a phenomenal powerhouse, has a lot of information on divorce. So definitely come back. And then the following week is another episode of Let's Talk Family dedicated to divorce. So July the 24th, Tanya Hood will be here to talk about healing after divorce. Just want to remind you all that my second book is coming up. Started my master's class. I'm going to be honest, I haven't had the opportunity to complete the final stuff to get it out. Just keep in mind that it's Life Lessons, a 30-day devotion, taking life lessons, things that we learn every day, and giving you a biblical application. So it's 3 paragraphs. The first paragraph is a story. The second paragraph is the biblical reference. And the third paragraph is the application. When I first wrote it, I said it was going to come out in the spring of 2021. And spring of 2021 is here. So I still got time. So just be on the lookout. It should be out real soon. I want to take the time out to thank my sponsor, Joey the Jeweler. Phenomenal man, phenomenal place. If you need some jewelry done, please contact him. He's great. He's great. He's my good friend of mine. That's all I'm gonna say about that. But thank you for coming to another episode of Let's Talk Family, where we want to strengthen the family. If you would like to be a guest, if you would like a particular show, feel free to contact me, and then we will get you here and we'll decide what's going to work. Because what I want to do is strengthen families. Because here at Let's Talk Family, we strengthen families. And when you're here, you're family. Thank you for your time.